The year is 1666. London, a bustling metropolis of wooden houses and narrow streets, is about to face its greatest challenge yet. In the early hours of Sunday, September 2nd, a fire ignites in a baker's shop on Pudding Lane. This seemingly insignificant event will soon spiral into one of the most devastating disasters in English history, the Great Fire of London. Over 4 long days and nights, the fire will consume everything in its path, leaving a permanent scar on the city's landscape and psyche. The Great Fire of London was more than just a destructive force. It was a turning point in the city's history, leading to significant changes in its social fabric, architecture, and relationship with fire. This essay delves into the events of that fateful week, exploring the causes, consequences, and legacy of the Great Fire of London. The fire's impact extended far beyond physical damage. It had profound social and economic consequences, displacing thousands and altering the city's power dynamics. From the ashes of this tragedy, however, arose a new London, one that was more resilient, regulated, and aware of the ever-present threat of fire. This essay aims to provide a concise yet comprehensive account of the Great Fire of London, accessible to a broad audience. By examining the historical context, key events, and long-term consequences, we can gain a deeper understanding of this pivotal event and its enduring impact on one of the world's greatest cities. To understand the ferocity with which the Great Fire consumed London, one must first understand the city's condition in 1666. London was a city ripe for disaster, a tinderbox waiting to ignite. Overcrowding, haphazardly constructed buildings, and inadequate fire prevention measures created a perfect storm for a catastrophic fire. London's population had exploded in the 17th century, reaching over 500,000 people. This rapid growth led to cramped living conditions, with houses built closely together, their wooden beams nearly touching. Narrow, winding streets further exacerbated the problem, hindering access for firefighting efforts. Adding to the risk was the prevalent use of timber in construction. Most houses were built entirely of wood, with thatched roofs that were highly flammable. Even the building's interiors were fire hazards, filled with flammable materials like oil lamps, candles, and coal fires. The city's fire prevention measures were woefully inadequate for its size and density. Firefighting equipment was rudimentary, consisting mainly of leather buckets and hand-operated pumps. There was no organized fire brigade, and citizens were expected to combat fires themselves. In the event of a large fire, these ad hoc efforts proved utterly insufficient. In the early hours of Sunday, September 2nd, 1666, a fire broke out in the bakery of Thomas Fariner, the King's baker, on Pudding Lane. The exact cause of the fire remains unknown, but it is believed to have started accidentally in the bakery's ovens. Whatever its origin, the fire quickly spread through the bakery, fueled by flour sacks and stacks of firewood. The fire might have been contained had it not been for a combination of unfortunate circumstances. A strong easterly wind fanned the flames, pushing them towards adjacent buildings. The narrow street acted like a chimney, funneling the fire upwards and outwards. By the time the alarm was raised, the fire had already gained considerable momentum. Initial attempts to extinguish the fire were disorganized and ineffective. The Lord Mayor of London, Sir Thomas Bloodworth, downplayed the threat, famously dismissing it as a fire that a woman might piss out. His inaction proved costly, allowing the fire to spread unchecked throughout the night. As the sun rose on Sunday morning, the true extent of the disaster became horrifyingly clear. The fire had transformed Pudding Lane into an inferno, consuming everything in its path. With each passing hour, the fire grew larger, fueled by the city's densely packed wooden buildings and whipped up by the relentless wind. London was now facing a conflagration of unprecedented scale. Section 4. Days of Terror, the fire rages on. The fire raged for 4 long days and nights, turning London into a scene of unimaginable chaos and destruction. Driven by the relentless east wind, the flames spread westward, consuming everything in their path. The fire jumped from building to building, crossing streets and leaping over the River Fleet, which ordinarily might have acted as a natural firebreak. Panic gripped the city as the fire spread with terrifying speed. Thousands of terrified Londoners fled their homes, carrying whatever possessions they could salvage. The streets became choked with refugees, carts laden with belongings, and livestock being herded to safety. King Charles II, initially reluctant to intervene, finally took charge of the situation, ordering the demolition of buildings to create fire breaks. However, these efforts proved largely ineffective as the fire, fueled by the wind and an endless supply of timber, continued its relentless advance. By Tuesday, the fire had reached the heart of the city, destroying landmarks like the Royal Exchange and St. Paul's Cathedral. The heat from the fire was so intense that it melted lead on rooftops and cracked stone walls. The air was thick with smoke, the sky glowing an eerie orange from the flames. Section 5. A City in Ruins. The Aftermath of the Great Fire. By Thursday, September 6, the wind finally abated and the fire began to subside. Firefighters, exhausted but determined, managed to contain the flames, finally extinguishing the inferno that had consumed London for 4 long days and nights. In the aftermath, the city lay in ruins, a smouldering testament to the fire's destructive power. The Great Fire had consumed an estimated 13,200 houses, 87 churches, 44 livery company halls, the Royal Exchange, Custom House, and countless other buildings. Over 70,000 people, 2/3 of the city's population, were left homeless. While the official death toll was surprisingly low, likely due to underreporting, the true number of casualties remains unknown. The financial cost of the fire was astronomical, estimated at £10 million, an unimaginable sum at the time. Businesses were destroyed, trade disrupted, and the city's economy brought to its knees. The fire had not only ravaged London's physical infrastructure, but also dealt a severe blow to its economic heart. Yet amidst the devastation, a spirit of resilience and determination emerged. Londoners, though reeling from the disaster, were determined to rebuild their city. The Great Fire, while a tragedy of immense proportions, would ultimately pave the way for a new and improved London.